Okay, we're going to begin the Liquor Control Board for today. It's a beautiful day. Thank everybody for joining us. We have a few items on the agenda. One of our members, Scott Brecky, is on vacation, but I think he's joining us by phone. So other than that, away we go. Agenda item number 1, approved minutes of the November 15th, 2023 regular meeting and the October 24th, 2023 special meeting. We have the information in front of us if there are any changes or corrections. Otherwise, we will accept a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other further changes or corrections? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 2, review liquor applications. 2A, the Fargo Air Museum. It's an A club license. Manager change. Steve.
Thank you, board members and commissioner, for your attendance today and for attending the joint meeting with the city commission. I think that was a very productive meeting. So what we have, the first item here is the Air Museum. So this last summer, they actually applied, meeting all the qualifications of a club license. And shortly after they received their license, then the manager actually left and the license was issued to the manager or in his name. And so this is a transfer then to a new manager. And they've gone through the background check. There were no items that were brought forth. And so it comes to you with a recommendation of approval.
Do we have any questions? And I guess the background check came back clear, and so there weren't any concerns on that. And so the police department signed off, and so they had no issues, correct?
That is correct.
And if there are any comments or questions, otherwise we would accept a motion.
I move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 2B, Uncork Lounge LLC, doing business as Uncork Lounge, adding Class C license. Steve.
So when we saw this a couple of months ago, she applied for a Class W license. It was her original intent to have both beer and wine. And if you remember, we did not have any of the beer licenses available. And since the adding of the 3 additional licenses, 3 beer and 3 wine, she is now coming back to fulfill what her original plan was, and adding the Class C beer license. She's still working on fit up and getting open, so she's not even open yet, but wanted to get this in there. She did, excuse me, let me know that she's not here able to attend today, but also that this will not be the taps. So the wines, if you remember, was all going to be self-service tap, and this will be bottles of beer instead of taps.
Okay, and so Steve, I have a question. So they have not opened yet, is that correct?
My understanding is she's still working on the fit up of the space.
So, and the address is 5601 33rd Avenue South, correct? And so I guess my question is, do they have to do like a floor plan like we have on some, they already did that?
Yep, we did that with the original application, what it was going to look like when it was fully constructed.
Okay.
I did a walkthrough and with some of my staff. Excuse me, a little bit of a frog here. And what we saw was an empty space at that time. They hadn't started any of the fit up. She needed to get the license in order to secure her loan. So that's kind of the process that she was going through.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Obviously, the
Background check was there was really no difference at all in that. And so, again, comes to you with a recommendation of approval.
any other questions? Otherwise, we'll accept a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 2C, Up North Hospitality, doing business as CJ's Tavern, located at Rose Creek Parkway, Class FA Golf. Steve.
Why, thank you. So originally, well, let's start with what this is. This is a FA golf license. It's at Rose Creek. The golf license requires it to be a minimum of a 9-hole PGA approved. So we kind of stay away from a button pump. Can't talk today. Putt and bump, a little mini golf type thing. It has to be a USGA approved golf course. So this one has been at Rose Creek. If we go back a ways, Rose Creek was originally opened with Earlene Hector having Rose Creek. And through a series of years after Earlene retired, the license has been transferred numerous times. And so what we're looking at here is a transfer to it's basically CJ's Tavern. Now, through the process with the application, there were some inconsistencies in the discussion that the police officer was getting from the four different applicants. It's my understanding, speaking to the applicants, that one of the applicants was going through some personal issues and maybe was slightly confused about who filled out the forms, or whether or not what he had disclosed on the forms and some of that information. Subsequent to that, so the recommendation that originally came out from the chief's office was to deny this application or this transfer. And so conversations with the remaining applicants, they decided, and I guess it's important to point out too that this is a family of applicants. It's a number of brothers and stepbrothers and that type of thing. And so they decided that the best thing to do was to remove the one person that seemed to have some issues with what was told to the police department and what the interpretations were. I did receive documentation from them that shows that they have done that in their corporate structure. And so I did have a laydown item on the top where we changed the recommendation to approval. So I don't know. Now, obviously, there's going to be some questions about this. And the applicants are here and they can speak to this also.
And I guess while the chief's coming up, I guess that's just my main question. If that satisfies his, obviously the police originally recommended to deny, but if they remove this individual, then does that change your perspective?
Yeah, no, Steve and I talked about this. I also talked with the owner, I guess it would be Cody, on this particular issue, and I think we resolved those concerns that initially I felt invalidated the application. So I believe we are good to go from the police side as well.
Very good. Any other questions? And I guess my question, Steve, is, I mean, we've done that before where there's multiple owners and they all have to go through. And so we have had this happen before where we've had, so if you don't mind talking a little bit about that.
Yeah, I can't think of one that jumps right to my mind, but over the 20 plus years that I've been here, we've had people that, one of the partners, just didn't pass muster, and so they've removed them from that process. The C and the J in this are for Cody and Jordan, brother and stepbrother, and so those are the two that are really going to be managing and running the facility. Their father is Brad, and Brad is the kind of the financing part of it. Cody is going to be running the day-to-day operations, and then Jordan, if you remember, Rose Creek has that big space for events and that type of thing, and Jordan's going to run the events side of it. So they've kind of got a business plan. The brother that was in there that they've removed, didn't really have an active role in the business the way that they were proposing it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I do. So Steve, is the footprint going to be the entire bar that was up there before the previous?
Yes.
And there's going to be liquor service downstairs and golf carts?
Yes. So it'll be operated the way it has been in the past.
Okay, well, my question would be: was this the design of an FA license for an independent golf course to have an independent bar business under an FA license? It seems to me that it's different than one of the city properties where the golf course wants to have a bar they also operate. seems to me the golf course is operated completely separate than the bar. Shouldn't this be under regular licensing rather than a special golf license?
So the FA golf license was created for this type of situation exactly. So, and we also have it now so that it can be operated on a seasonal basis if they so choose. The reason, so the places that we have the FA golf licenses, the golf courses are owned by the park district, and state law does not allow a local taxing entity like a city or a park district to own a license. And so this is kind of similar to the Fargo Dome, where we have an arrangement with somebody else that is the license holder, although we, the city, runs that license. It's unfortunate that that's the way the state law is written, but it's the way that we find that we find that we have to operate in these situations. So we have 3 of these FA golf licenses issued. They're at Osgood, Edgewood, and then at Rose Creek.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we will accept a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 2D, Downtown Tavern LLC, doing business as Marge's Bar, 210 Broadway, Suite 90, and it's a Class Z. Steve?
So if we roll back about 6 months or so, we went to the city commission to declare that the population of the city had reached 130,000, which triggered an additional license to be available. It also triggered a Z and a B limited license. So we advertised and then opened up to accept applications for about a 3-month period. We only received 1 application for this Class Z license. Currently, the Marge's Bar part is operating under the license that includes the boiler room. It's a contiguous area that you can move freely from one space to another. By separating it out, it helps the applicant to maintain the integrity of the FA license that he's operating the boiler room under, and his food ratios don't have to get so close. And so that's really the purpose of this application, or the reason. And I know that the applicant is here if you have questions.
Does anybody have any questions? And the background check, and I guess my question is, have we, I'm familiar with the boiler room, have we had any issues? I don't believe we have, but as far as from the city's perspective with law enforcement, I think they've had a clean record, kind of?
I believe so. Didn't look into that. Nothing came up from the chief.
Okay.
They've never had any issues meeting their food ratios. They've been a very good operator with multiple licenses in the city of Fargo.
Okay, very good. So any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we will accept a motion.
Motion approved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comments or questions?
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 3, the police department monthly report and general report. Chief?
Not a lot of liquor establishment forms to look at this month. Nothing that really stood out. The simple assault at the Northern, which doesn't appear to have anything to do with the operation. So are there any questions on the few
Any
items
other-
that we have for
Any
November?
other, I guess to me, it's a good sign. We're not seeing as much. Is that maybe a seasonal issue, or is
Well,
it?
and I'm gonna, yeah, no, that's a great question. So what I'm also bringing forward for you, and I'll be able to bring this on a monthly basis, is some additional data on some of the things that we asked about. So ta-da, right to your question, bar checks. So you can look at 2022 to 2023, the amount of bar checks. And so they do seem to be, well, those are bar checks. So the amount of inspections, walkthroughs that we're doing through November, which is a little different than the form data. I think that's in a different slide. But one of the other questions that we had was about our bar checks. Let me go back here. Here's our monthly comparable for the forms. 23 in this slide is in orange. So you'll see that I think we are seeing a pretty consistent reduction in the amount of issues within the licensed establishments. So I think that's good, and that shows that, I think we're balancing that well. We're getting good compliance, and overall, we don't have a lot of problems. And, there's a few places where we still have some issues that we're aware of and trying to address. So that's the liquor forms. What we're also be able to start showing you, and I've got a breakdown, I think, of the places that were checked by bar to go with this data. But year to date, and this is now just a call for service analysis, just bearing in mind that calls for service do not equate to issues within the establishment itself. Sometimes it's the address that's used. And so when you look at the calls for service and you look at like the alibi bar, you don't even see them in a liquor establishment form because whatever their address is, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, that's the address that's used for these calls for whatever reason, but they're not having any issues within the establishment. So we've got two kind of methods of comparables in terms of data that we'll be able to bring forward, on a more regular basis. November, top calls for service, again, and whether or not it's related to the establishment would be reflected in the liquor establishment form. Okay, so here's our bar check breakdown. So this is just for November. I think we had, 16 total. You can see the disbursement. Again, we have a heavy concentration in the downtown area. Not to be unexpected, I wouldn't think, but we certainly get across to a lot of different locations. And again, I think with few exceptions, looking at those establishments there, we didn't have any identified issues or problems. So you'll see that on a more regular basis, and then there's our monthly liquor establishment form comparable. And this is just combined issues on 23 with in terms of the over-intoxication. I think you've seen this slide previously. We'll continue to track these types of things as well. Oftentimes the crime and stuff that occurs doesn't really have anything to do with the establishment either. It is just where the crime occurred, and we went there to take that report. Ones that may be relevant, DUIs, sometimes assaults, especially if we have bouncers or door attendants involved. We've talked about some of those, and I know Steve's got some de-escalation training set up next month, which I think is outstanding. So we got some good stuff going on there. This just shows dispositions. And again, that over-intoxication issue is still prevalent in that one establishment. The rest of them, there's maybe another one close, but the rest of them aren't, I guess you wouldn't call it even close. And that's just tracking the server training. So when we go in and do these checks, again, just making sure that everyone's server trained.
Chief, can I ask you where it says LEF? Can you what's that stand for?
Liquor establishment form. So that's our liquor establishment form. When we go to
Okay.
this one, that's how many liquor establishment forms per month. And again, looking at the 23 trend, we're seeing fewer, on a pretty consistent basis throughout the year, with the exception, I guess, of May.
So can I ask you another question, Chief? So are those, that's the number of, can they be multiple different types of things, this LEF?
It could be, basically it's a call for service that we went to that involves something that happened or related to the establishment itself.
So I guess that's my question. So sometimes an establishment will call for assistance. So it's not necessarily that they're violating. Sometimes it's they're calling for assistance from the police department. So
yeah, exactly right. And that's where the calls for service, when you look at that one, there's places that aren't even in this other list that there's calls, but they're non-related. And
Right.
sometimes, occasionally we'll get an LEF because an establishment turned in a bunch of IDs. That kind of thing, but
no,
yes.
I just wanted to clarify that. So thank you. I appreciate that.
I think that's about it on this, but I'll be able to get this to you on a monthly basis as well, and we'll continue to update that data. You'll get a little better idea what's going on.
That's great information. Thank you very much for doing that. Are there any other questions other than my dumb questions that I asked too many questions? So I apologize
Yeah,
for.
no, those
but-
are good.
But to me, I guess that's good news. That I would say that, and we obviously there's probably multiple reasons behind it, but I would say to summarize it, there's been a decline. So that's a good indicator.
Yeah, no, I think we're seeing, I think we see very good compliance across the board. I think our brown bag that we had earlier, some very other positive steps in the right direction, just to make sure that we establish a safe culture of nighttime enjoyment in Fargo. And, it's just I think some good moves.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll move on. The next item on the agenda is 4A, the de-escalation training with the North Dakota Safety Council on January 24th of 2024. Steve, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so as Chief mentioned, as you brought up here, Commissioner, we were able to secure some time with the North Dakota Safety Council. They do have a former law enforcement officer, 20-year retired, that does the training. My understanding is that he will gear it towards the audience that he has. And so we're very hopeful that we get the de-escalation training that we're hoping to get when we had that other one before. I think that this one will be very, very beneficial. So we are limited to 50 people per session, and the cost is $30 a piece. They can get signed up for that on our website. If they go to the cityofargo.com, or is it fargond.gov maybe? I'm not very good with that stuff. But anyway,
Steve, I'm all in on technology, and it's farond.gov. So
there we go. Thank you, sir.
just let me know if you ever have any questions about any of that.
And then look for the departments and find auditor's homepage. And then on there, you'll see the link to sign up for this de-escalation training. My Cracker Jack staff has told me that we have 17 people signed up so far. What I've seen, it looks like the afternoon session is more popular than the morning session. That could be the crowd that we're speaking to here, right? They get done at 2, 3 in the morning. They maybe don't want to get up at 9. So anyway, that's about all I have at that. But please sign up. We'd like to really see those classes get full. And certainly there are some businesses that have more interaction, on a regular basis with their patrons. And I think it'd be a good, worthwhile time for them to go to that training.
Thank you. And then next item is follow up on scanners. And if you don't mind, when we start, I have a couple questions to start out with. One is, I think a lot of people want to know, so it's a lot less expensive than I thought. He basically said it was about $70 a month. The question I have is is that per business or per employee or per scanner? That's one of my questions, because I thought it was going to be a lot more expensive. I don't know if you guys thought that was going to be, and girls, I apologize, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you don't mind getting some information, and I do think any of the retailers that are here, if they have any questions, can they go through you, or as far as more questions?
Yeah, I'd be glad to facilitate any conversations. So he has, obviously he has a vested interest in the product that he's selling, but he has implied that there are others out there. So my goal is to find out what those other ones are too, so we can, at least have some comparisons for people. The $70, what he had told me previously when I spoke to him was $70 per device. Okay. And like he said, if you have a mom and pop and mom puts it on her phone and then walks away, well, now you have a store without anything, so his recommendation and what he's seen more successful is to have the store buy a device and have it on that device. And he can sell you the device too. And that was $90. So $20 a month for the device and $70 for the scanning product for the app.
So I guess that's my question. So like for a bigger business, or let's say that you had a business where you have a front and back entrance where you want to have scanners at both, do you pay one fee and then that pays for the business? I guess that's kind of my question. So, and Dustin, maybe you have some question for it too, and anybody here, go ahead. If you don't mind introducing yourself.
Yep, Dustin Mitzel, Happy Harry's Bottle Shops. Yeah, my questions would be, what price would that device be? Can you buy it or do you lease it? What his percentage of down, meaning the app does not work. A lot of times with credit card processors, we want to find out how many times a year are they down and for what periods of time. So if you'd have New Year's Eve, and I'm not a bar, I'm a retailer, but and you were down from 9 to 11, that could be kind of catastrophic if you're trying to make sure you have no monitors in there. So just some of the costing, because for a business like us, we'd have to put one at each till. You take 21 tills. I mean, that's just at $70 a month per till would be under 18,000, and you put another usage for a machine on there, it could get pretty spendy quick. So
that's great, Dustin. I appreciate that. And I think any other retailers, if you have any specific questions, contact Steve, and then we'll follow up, because at Liquor Control, we'll be talking about this in the future. And so if there's any other ones like that you come up with, I think that'd be good to kind of start knowing a little bit more about what it will cost. I was very impressed. I appreciate the meeting that we had, because I had no idea that it worked on a phone. I thought it was a separate standalone thing. So to me, the technology was pretty impressive, and so it'll be interesting to see. But I think we still have a lot to learn and a lot of questions, a lot of good questions. So, anybody else have anything to add on that? Steve, do you have anything to add?
No, sir.
Okay, so we'll move on to 4C, our last item, a discussion regarding annual background check and manager changes.
Well, just, to see exactly where, what your feelings are. Maybe you want to sleep on it a little bit and bring some of those thoughts back, or email me with any of the three things that we talked about, those manager changes, the penalty structure, the point system, or the language, including stream of service, any of those things. I think we'd welcome any of your feedback and get ready to move forward on any changes. I think one of the questions was how quickly would we institute these manager changes? Potentially we could get that done in the first quarter of 24. So it's just a matter of how quickly everybody wants to move forward with that. And, I do think that the industry probably needs a chance to be able to weigh in on some of that too.
Sure. If you have a comment, if you want to, while you're coming up, if you don't mind, I thought Tatiana made a good point about stream of service, to clarify that, because one of the things I'm concerned about is if it's a small bar and restaurant, it's hard to find staff. And if you say you have to be 21, I just think that's going to make it very difficult. So I think there still needs to be more clarification on that, because to me, like the bussers and washers, and I don't know if all those people need to necessarily be at that level of having server training and all that thing. So I guess that's my main concern. So go ahead.
Hi, Dan Herder with the Boiler Room in Marge's Bar. Just wanted to speak on the manager background check piece a little bit. I would just really encourage you guys to make sure that managers with colorful pasts are actually a problem before we rock that boat too much. Our industry has historically always been a place for people that maybe couldn't find traditional employment in other avenues, have found a place to work and have built their careers. And I employ a manager that I think at this point she's probably good, but at one time probably would not have passed her background check. And as an owner, that's a risk that I'm willing to take. It's my insurance, it's my assets, it's my property. I think it's fair to put restrictions on the license holder, but if I'm willing to take that risk on an employee and I believe that they're the right person to run my business, I would hate for that individual to be precluded. Simply because she has a past. And also, if we are going to go down that route, then I think it needs to be very, very specific as to what things would disqualify a candidate, because we cannot wait for a background check to come back when extending job offers and trying to move that employment process forward. So it's going to have to be really cut and dry so that we can immediately either disqualify a candidate or not. But I guess those are my thoughts on it. So.
No, those are excellent points. And I would say in the past, we've had people with issues and we've approved liquor licenses when people have come in and talked about that was at a different time in their life. I would say that has happened. And on the flip side, it's like, but part of this is having a liquor license is a privilege. And so, and it's public safety and all those kinds of things combined. So I do appreciate your point. The other thing that's important is it's for law enforcement. So if we have an issue at your business, they know who the contact is. That's part, I would say that's a very important part of this, is that we want to have a good relationship. But a lot of times, and sometimes it's the businesses where they're not local owners that we don't know who to contact if there is an issue. So I would say there's lots of parts of it. And Steve, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, just to echo everything you said, and as also what Dan said, I think we've tried to be sensitive to that in the past. It certainly is the owner that is at risk there if their employee, something happens. On the other hand, I understand law enforcement side too, that if you've got somebody that has a criminal history and that history repeats itself, you're just, opening yourself up. And if you could have nipped that in the bud beforehand, that's a good thing too. So It's worthy of further discussion. Before we, because this is the last item, I just want to really extend my appreciation to you guys, you know, to volunteer to come in here and spend a couple hours of your day. You know, as Commissioner says, it's a beautiful day outside, and here we are inside. So I think.
And I'd like to add, we have excellent staff, so thank you for all your hard work. And we do have, I really enjoy our board. We have lots of good members, and so it's a lot of fun. It's very important work, and so I hope everybody enjoys it. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate everybody, the small businesses, a lot of local owners out here, and we appreciate what you do too. And so we are not in the business of trying to make things difficult. We're just trying to make things good for you and good for us, and make sure everybody's safe. And so that's kind of how we roll. So I will say it's a beautiful day. It's melting outside. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and we will see you in 2024.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.